Everyone's saying you don't need to sand anymore, but here's why I do, even if the paint says it sticks without it. If you've ever wondered whether sanding is really necessary, you are not alone. I've tried skipping it too, and sometimes it works, but sometimes it totally wrecks your finish. Here's the thing, sanding is not just about adhesion. It's about fixing scratches, evening out damage, and helping the paint glide on smooth. It doesn't have to take forever or be complicated, but skipping it is a gamble you might not want to take, and here's why. When I first started painting furniture, I believed everything the paint label told me. If it said no sanding needed, I didn't take that as gospel exactly. I mean, I kind of figured from the experience that I had in the past, it probably wasn't true, but I definitely took it as I can probably get away with it because why would the paint label be telling me that I could do it? Plus, I scoured the internet and there were so many people saying, yeah, just slap this chalk paint on and you're good to go. I wanted quick, easy makeovers, and I told myself that I was saving time by skipping sanding, and honestly, a lot of times I skipped priming too. And at first, it looked like it worked, but that was during the distressed furniture craze when if paint scratched a little, it was fine. Actually, we were painting furniture and then scratching it up ourselves and called it style, which don't get me wrong. I am a farm girl. I love a good rustic look. So over time, it would naturally wear, and that was just part of the look. But when I started wanting a solid, smooth, modern finish with no distressing, that's when skipping sanding came back to bite me. Case in point, my kitchen chairs. I painted them about 10 years ago. I didn't sand them first. I didn't really do any prep. So I cleaned them and then I dove in with the paint. Now, 10 years later, I can scratch the paint off with my fingernail. You can still see all of the scratches in the wood underneath because I just painted right over them. I did not get rid of them before I started painting. And honestly, these chairs looked pretty beat up within a year of using them. So I have dreaded redoing them for years. They've looked bad for a long time, but the idea of taking off all of that paint is exhausting. I've even thought about donating them to a thrift store because I don't know. Can I really do this? I know that I can do this, but do I really want to do this? Go through all of that work? The reality is, because I didn't take 5, 10, maybe 15 or 20 minutes on all of these chairs to sand in the beginning, the paint isn't holding well anywhere, which means I can't just touch them up here and there. I have to strip or sand all of the old paint off down to bare wood so the new paint has something solid to stick to. If I were to just go paint over what already exists, which is a terrible paint job, anytime that it gets bumped or scratched, the old paint and the new paint will come right off. But if the old paint held on really well and didn't scratch off like it does, I would be able to just clean them up, scuff sand, and prime them, and then paint again without removing all of the old paint first. But since the whole finish is weak, it all has to come off first. What I thought would save me a few minutes of time 10 years ago is now a much bigger, messier project. And yeah, I could just go donate them to the thrift store, but then also I would have to go buy some more chairs. So not sanding 10 years ago is actually costing me a lot of time or money, no matter how I slice it. Now, contrast that with my nightstands. I painted those around the same time. The difference though is that I sanded, I primed, I did all the things before painting. Now, let's be honest. My nightstands are not getting as much wear and tear as the kitchen chairs. The kids are not in there moving them around all the time. I'm not getting food on them and having to wipe it off. But here's the thing. I can scratch at the paint on my nightstands and it's not just gonna scratch right off. It is stuck on there. I used chalk paint on both and I top coated both of them. The only real difference is the prep. And when it comes time to redo these nightstands, I will not have to take them back to bare wood. I can just do a light scuff sand, clean them, prime them, paint right over the old finish. That is the payoff of sanding the first time. You are saving your future self a whole lot of work and your paint is gonna look better for so much longer. Another big reason why I sand is to deal with scratches and dings. Even if you have the best paint and the best primer, the paint is not spackle. It will not magically just hide the flaws. It often makes them stand out more. So if you're using anything glossier than flat paint, which you should, by the way, flat paint looks dirty and dingy, and it's not very easy to clean. So if you are using anything glossier than flat paint, every scratch will catch in the light and will be more noticeable than before you painted. I've had plenty of thrifted pieces where the top is covered in scratches. That's most pieces of furniture. If I would just paint over all of those scratches, you would see that ghost of those scratches. That's why you will often see me sanding the tops of furniture down to bare wood, even when I'm planning to paint over them. Because sanding down to raw wood gives me a smooth, clean slate that looks so good, either refinished in raw wood or painted again. No more dings, no more scratches to have to look at through the paint. So these days, if I am not testing out a no sand, no prep paint for you, I grab 220 grit sandpaper or a fine grit foam pad and do a super quick scuff sand on every single piece. I'm not talking about spending hours here. I'm talking about just a couple of minutes to knock down any shallow scratches so they disappear under the paint. You do have to be careful about sanding the shallow scratches down. If you are working with wood veneer that is very thin, you don't want to blow through that thin surface and down to even worse of a surface. So yes, you can wood fill these scratches and then sand them down. Sometimes that gets rid of them. Other times you still can see the scratches. But what can you do when you are working with thin wood veneer? You can be very gentle and sand as much as you feel comfortable with, and then wood fill, sand, and then prime. And then I lightly scuff sand the surface to dull the shine. And I especially focus on any surface like corners, edges, under the handles, around the edges of drawers, because that's where the paint wears the fastest. So I lightly scuff sand all of that, clean off the dust before I am even ready for primer or paint. This is how you're going to get the longest lasting finish. When you smooth out those little imperfections before you paint, they don't show through your finish. That's how you get that factory smooth look, the kind where people can't tell if you've painted it or if it came that way. And when you dull that glossy finish just a little bit, you're giving your primer and paint something to hold on to. It's kind of like when you have a new phone and you don't have a case on it. It's harder to hold on to. When you put a nice grippy case on, you can hold on to it better. Same thing with paint. It needs something to help it hold on to your furniture. Even with a bonding paint that says no sanding needed, this extra step makes the finish way more durable. Here's the thing though, when people hear sanding, they picture hours of dusty work stripping down to bare wood. That is not what we're talking about here. We are talking about minutes, not hours, and a little upfront effort that can save you from redoing your entire project later. Even if the can says no sanding needed, I still sand my own furniture and ones that I want to sell for a good amount of money, because 5 minutes now beats 5 hours later every single time. And I want my customers to be happy with their finish. This is the kind of advice that makes a huge difference in your final result. And it's exactly the kind of stuff I teach inside my course, How to Paint Furniture Like a Boss. If you're ready to feel confident with every step and stop going through YouTube rabbit holes, I'll link it in the description. Sanding isn't one size fits all, and neither is prep. So how do you know what your piece really needs before you paint? That's what we're diving into in the next video, because wood, laminate, and particle board all need different things. Click here to learn my secrets for when a piece has all 3 materials. I'll see you there.